Well, I would say this is another quick video, but it might not be. This here is an LCD display out of a monitor that you may have seen being used with a Raspberry Pi Zero recently. This is the back panel from it. Down on my ever so messy floor is the foot. And here is the front panel control and the speakers. And this is the main board driver out of the back. Why am I telling you all this? Well, this is the Raspberry Pi Zero and the electronics I need. And once I put the backlight driver back in here, there should be ample room inside the back of the monitor to run this. So this will be very, very interesting. With luck, I'll be able to remove the VGA and perhaps hardwire it. And I'll be able to pick up 12 volts from this little regulator from the 12 volt input to this monitor. So I'll have an all-in-one PC monitor. A little bit like a Mac. Not that I really want to do anything to look like a Mac, but it'll work. A slight problem, because this was designed to be non-removable clips, I did bust a couple getting that facade off, but that's nothing a little bit of glue won't fix. A little bit of hot glue so that right at the high temperature it's going to run out at the fire tower, it'll probably fall off in my face. But in any case, this is going to be an interesting build. I'm a little bit further along here. What I've actually done is I've taken VGA cable rather than patch straight off the bottom of the board, which is what I thought would be a great idea until I noticed that the density of the surface mount components is a little uncomfortable, and the thought that I might actually use this monitor for something else someday. I've connected just a VGA cable. I've punched out the redundant DVI port that's unpopulated here. Run the cable up, and now I'm just working on a join, slightly messy join, and I would have probably done a more decorative inline join if this was going to be external, but because it's internal, I'm just going to shove some heat shrink over each one of these and hide it away inside the monitor. And we can see here I've actually reattached the backlight inverter as well, as it had removable plugs. They were just a little bit short, and that just gives me a good position to lay everything out. I'm going to have just enough room to put the VGA cable there, mostly because I want to keep the Raspberry Pi Zero as far away from the high tension for the fluorescent backlights as possible. But we're making progress. So a little bit more progress here. I've managed to fit everything out and put this horrible jumble of cables in here. Really, if I had a little bit more time and money, I would have probably purchased much shorter cables and probably more convenient adapters, but it's working, and I've got the horrible join in here is somewhat contained. The next challenge is going to be getting all the connectors back in place. This is going to be fun. Righto, I've finished assembling the end product, and you can see here there's just my little loopback cables under here and one USB extender that's done. So now it's smoke test time, and you'll see that house battery is currently at 12.3 volts and we have a plug. Let's see what happens when we plug this in. See if I can do this one-handed with the camera. Could be interesting. I think we're plugged in. Well, this is very promising. A little bit of noise on the speakers, probably because all the audio lines are compressed together. I'm going to call that a success. Where are we? So one of the problems I discovered that was a little bit unanticipated is that this metal shroud that fits inside the back of the monitor is actually doing a good job of blocking the Wi-Fi signal. It still works, but nowhere near what we require. So I'm going to have to get a little bit serious here. I've marked the area with tape, which was an insulation to cover up the area that the Raspberry Pi was actually sitting. I'm going to use that as a guide, and I'm just going to simply cut that section out. A little bit of hot glue left from where I took a shortcut. But we'll see how we go here. It's going to be interesting to find out which way this is going to work. And obviously my lead has had to stay in here. It's too big to fit out the hole. So let's see how, this is the corner we wish to cut out and put in the vise. Now this could be a little noisy, we'll see how we go. So hearing protection, and then we get the big guns with a little disc. That is the section I want to cut. Alright, so that bit's easy done. I got most of my tape, that was good. It should give us a clear access for Wi-Fi signal. I'll give this a bit of a clean up with a file. I want to find where my files have gone. Either that or I'll use a deburring tool. But anyway, onwards to the next step. So I once again have the monitor in pieces. I've decided halfway through this build that I'm going to add a real-time clock because I happened to find one. However, the little tiny battery that it shipped with was totally flat, which is not uncommon. The anti-static bags they ship these with are quite often conductive, which is what makes them anti-static, but it also rests against the battery terminals on the back of this and makes them go flat. So I've attached a CR2032 holder, which I ripped off an old DVR board, which we will find right here after I nearly fell off my chair. So we see the big triangular markers where I've ripped off that, and that DVR board is dead. Well, not really, but it was sending surreptitious emails to China with screenshots, so I decided to pull that out of service, along with about 20 others. Anyway, we have some more bits to show you here. This is the shroud returned with far more hot glue than I'm comfortable with. I've also managed to, again, hot glue, but installed a USB slot in the side from an OTG connector with a right angle bend, which I thought was going to be a great idea to get it clear of the board, but I realized after buying it that the right angle bend is going the wrong way. So I'm now attempting to power the board directly from the GPIO pins. And being as the Raspberry Pi Zero doesn't have a poly fuse, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. So yeah, I'll reassemble all this and see how we go. Just another little side note, anybody that might have a Victorinox Cyber Tool or anything with a screwdriver on it, you might notice there's two little steps inside here. That provides two different size sockets, the smaller of which is designed for fitting these, which is very, very good for undoing up or undoing standoff screws. Very, very nifty, and I'm yet to find anything that works quite as well for doing this. And even do this one-handed whilst I hold the camera in the other. Very, very handy. So here we are, mostly reassembled. We have right here, I'll use a thing here. This is the driver board for the monitor, which is vastly more massive than the midget little Raspberry Pi Zero W here. I have my real-time clock module and power running up here. To make the battery a little easier to replace, I've put it on some longer wires, and so I don't have to fully disassemble the monitor to get to it. This is the high tension fluoro backlight inverter. You'll notice that the audio lead here I've tried to run right around here and keep it as far away from that as possible. I was suffering some both processor interference and backlight interference on the audio line from that, and so you'll notice I've also kept it clear of the Raspberry Pi. This is my mini HDMI to standard HDMI adapter, my HDMI to VGA adapter with an audio tap. Pretty soon I'll be connecting the fluoros to this, and I've also now got underneath here my VGA lead right here, and I've got my audio lead. This means that at some point what I can actually do is disconnect those connectors and use this for a monitor should I still wish to do it. Hiding up in behind here is the 5-volt regulator. There's an air vent on the other side here. This does two things. It helps keep the regulator a little cooler, which is one of the main sources of heat, and also allows me to see the light from it functioning through the grill at the back, so I can tell if for some reason things aren't functioning. I can do a quick little bit of diagnosis. I seem to have mislaid my USB mouse receiver. Well, it's a mouse and keyboard in one. I seem to have misplaced that during the assembly, so this could be interesting to see if I can actually do anything with it once I reassemble, but we'll see how we go. Righto, so the next test, we've just completed a smoke test and it passed without releasing any magic smoke. We'll probably hear some background noise here. It's getting close to dinner time and tensions are high in the kitchen area, so you may hear my young apprentice getting cranky about not having food yet. But in the meantime, we're going to reattach the LCD panel here. Here we go. This was the trickiest bit when I put this back together last time. Sounds like dinner's up right at a crucial point in time. So this is going to be interesting. Got one in. Right. So I kind of can't leave this now. I need to continue with it. I may need to use some pliers to put this in. Here we go. This is one almost in. It's like 2 or 4. You notice I marked these with some marker. Here we go. I think this video is going to require some editing. Here we go. And we're almost there. Very almost there. There we go. We're in. And we close the lid, hopefully for the last time. And hopefully I've got the display panel up the right way. It's going to be fun if it's not. Something is not right. Okay, I think we're in. Now comes the moment of truth. I haven't really been able to test everything until now. The smoke test. Under here there is a connector. I have to do this one-handed, so we'll see if I can get in here properly. Here we go. We are plugged in. Let's see what we get. Alright, so that looks to be working. Current draw for my whole desk has come up to about 4 amps in total. If we turn off these lights, we'll bring it back to 12 volts, and our overall current drain is about 2.5 amps. Not too bad. 2.5, nearly 3 amps, which these fans over the back here draw about 0.5 amp. So I think 2.5 amps overall is not too bad. Wait for this to boot up, do some Wi-Fi tests, and we can see the USB and mouse receiver here. We can see fairly carefully here, that's the 5-volt regulator in there as well. It's all sharing power. It's working very nicely. Now let's see if I can swing this back that way a little bit. Sorry about the poor camera work, guys. But now I have a handy dandy wireless mouse and keyboard working on the one combined receiver. Let's see now. We want to run the GUI on this, and I'll get my finger out of the way, and then we'll see what the Wi-Fi says. It wasn't too great signal wise, and Bluetooth was a bit patchy, partly because of that metal shroud in the back of the monitor, which I think mostly serves to provide Visa mounting capabilities. So audio says it's not connected, but we'll find our little Bluetooth speakers here. There we go. We'll see how they go. Well, they connected quickly. So we can see here we have, let's see if we can go volume control devices. Yes, it's found the Bluetooth speakers. Alright, let's see what kind of Wi-Fi networks it finds. Wireless network settings. Whoa, okay. Interface. Try an SSID. Let's see what it can find here. Alright, So there's lots of networks. Half of these, as you probably notice, are mine. This little guy here, he's actually outside the house on the top of a 40-foot pole. So that's actually not too bad. I'm kind enough to share Wi-Fi with the neighbours. This one is also mine. It's a little project of mine hiding in the front garden. Also have a few others. These two are in my lounge room. This one's for my elderly neighbour who I'm sharing Wi-Fi and file access with. This is my other neighbour. We get along quite well, so I share a specific access point just for him. And this is obviously my NBN connection. So the fact that it can see this guy right here tells me it's got very good Wi-Fi range now. Before it could only see this one, which is this one is that thingy right there, right next to my crow and my SWA meter. So it's getting everything. That's not too bad. And it's getting that guy is about 3 houses up, that guy's about 5 houses up, he's about 7, and that guy I think he's just across the road. So yeah, doing pretty well. I'm impressed, and I like the shape. Anyway, I'm gonna call it quits and I'm gonna make use of this. I'm gonna have some fun.